I remember you and I used to count the stars at night till the sun sank low. Then we drive for miles and miles to escape those neon lights where no one knows. Oh, why should the fire die? Oh, I see it in your eyes. We can light it up. We can light it up. Burning like ooh, ooh. Sky rockets going up. We can light it up. Burning like ooh, ooh. We can light it up. We were young and wild and free, like Picasso painting scenes across the midnight sky. Yeah, we were a sight to see, like a matchstick and kerosene on the 4th of July. Tonight, we can light it up. We can light it up. Burning like ooh, ooh. Sky rockets going up. We can light it up. Hey, burning like ooh. I feel my heart come back to life. Feel my heart come back to life. Feel my heart come back to life. Come back to life. Come back to life. I feel my heart come back to life. Feel my heart come back to life. Feel my heart come back to life. Come back to life. Come back to life. I feel my heart come back to life. Feel my heart come back to life. Feel my heart come back to life. Come back to life. Sky rockets going up. We can light it up. Burning like ooh, ooh. We can light it up. Oh, we can light it up. We can light it. We can light it up. We can light it up. We can light it up.
You're listening to the RM Podcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Get busy living or get busy dying. That's right, guys. Welcome to the RM Podcast, the Red Moon Podcast. We light it up red here every single week, but especially coming up for the month of October. Halloween is just around the bend, and that's right. we got our special Halloween reviews that are coming next week. So everybody get ready. We've got 2 reviews coming at you next week.
Well, not
Yeah.
both of them aren't
What do
Halloween.
you mean?
Only
Well,
one
yeah.
of them is Halloween.
That's true. No, what?
Yeah.
I didn't screw that up too bad.
No, no.
I mean,
you
I
didn't.
just was announcing we had 2. I was going to get there
We have 2
eventually.
reviews.
Yeah, but Keith, you're going to be obviously reviewing Enola Holmes and Rear Window.
Rear Window.
Because can you explain why we're doing Rear Window?
Because it's a good movie.
That's right. It's just a great movie.
Last year we did the Universal horror, like monster movie theme, and this year we're going to do a Hitchcock theme.
That's right.
Everybody goes.
Hitchcockian.
We spent a lot of the year doing Best Picture reviews, winners of the Academy Award Best Picture, and it just kind of we actually kind of ended right at that Hitchcock era. In fact, like one of his early
actually
movies
we did.
is one of the ones we did.
We meant to do that.
Yeah.
So
we timed that perfectly.
Yeah, so we're having like kind of ended right there anyways, and because Hitchcock is such a great, I mean, he is known as the master of suspense, but he also has done plenty of horror and thriller and mystery films. He's even done comedic films, but he's just so iconic and has so many great movies that doing a theme around him this year it makes sense. I mean, he has so many great classics that are fun to watch around the season for Halloween. So yeah, we'll start with Rear Window. I felt like it having a little bit more of a mystery tone with the for those who aren't familiar, it stars Jimmy Stewart, who I love. He's one of my favorites.
Classic.
He's actually
An older Jimmy
worked
Stewart.
with worked with Hitchcock quite a few times actually. I know for sure 3, but I'd have to double check to see if they're not more than that because I know he did.
If Jacob's
that,
in
Vertigo,
the
and
comment
Rope.
section,
Jacob
he
would
can
know.
let us know.
Yeah, I know he did Rope, Vertigo, and Rear Window.
Yeah.
But Rear Window revolves around him witnessing a murder from his apartment window. So there's a bit of a mystery theme there. And, of course, Enola Holmes is about her being the younger sister of Sherlock Holmes. So
and we're mainly just
it's
doing
kinda,
that one
you know.
because of the fact that it's popular
it's
on Netflix.
very
popular.
Just dropped.
It's gained a
Yeah.
lot of traction. It's gotten very popular with fans and critics. I think it has like a 90-something on Rotten Tomatoes,
Yeah.
which is crazy. I've seen bits and pieces already because I watched it at my sister's, but I didn't really get to tune in, so I
Yeah.
won't share my initial thoughts yet. I'll wait till I
I
actually
mean,
get to
Millie Bobby
watch
Brown is pretty much making
no.
the sweep of Netflix.
I will say
she is like their star.
My
right
dad
now.
loved it.
Oh,
did
he
he?
did. He
Yeah,
loved
He
it.
actually said that Henry Cavill's Sherlock Holmes was
Fantastic.
something that he had never seen
Really?
before.
I will say this. The acting I thought was solid. I really did enjoy the interactions between her and Henry Cavill, like between that. And as a family film, I thought it was very good. But I don't want to go too far in without actually watching it and paying attention to the whole movie. So
Same.
you'll get the true review next week.
But because it's such a popular film on Netflix, there was one that came out just before Enola Holmes dropped that had a lot of stars in it. And actually, I'll mention it after the review,
It
but there
garnered
is one
quite a
star
bit
in
of buzz
particular
until
that I think is absolutely knocks it out of the
Oh, yeah,
park,
yeah.
and I think is one of his best performances.
Okay,
but
yeah.
I'll mention that.
Oh, yeah.
Keith,
Which
go
is
ahead and set it
I
up.
was just gonna say, yeah, it actually did garner quite a bit of buzz until Enola Holmes dropped, and then it's been completely forgotten about, which is understandable because it's a completely different style movie, much more adult and R-rated for sure. But that is The Devil All the Time. Production companies continue to abandon thoughts of releasing major films this year. And with new cinema releases drying up again, VOD and streaming services are still filling the gap with new releases. Netflix in particular has been prominent whether for controversial releases or widely popular ones. One of their latest releases, The Devil All the Time, while garnering a lukewarm reception from critics, has hooked audiences becoming popular amongst subscribers. Telling an interconnected story revolving around a group of interrelated people, The Devil All the Time aims for mind-bending story weaved through the lives of its characters, and for the most part, it succeeds. Starring Tom Holland as Arvin Russell, the film tells a story with themes of revenge, abuse of power, good versus evil, faith, and deception. The film showcases the trickle effect of the trauma and sins of one generation and how they affect the next, while weaving multiple characters and years to drive its themes. If all of this sounds too complicated, it really isn't. The film follows characters like Arvin's father, Willard, played by Bill Skarsgård, as he returns home from World War II, and showcases how his trauma and faith impact Arvin and his choices as the story proceeds. This is done with the entire cast, showcasing how each character had in some way crossed paths with another, and how their actions likewise impact one another. The Devil All the Time's strange narrative structure causes it to jump around quite often, which, much like Netflix's The Witcher, can cause confusion for viewers. However, as the story progresses, how each character and plot point connect becomes clearer and clearer, all the while brutally showcasing the themes the film is going for. I say brutally because the film does not hold back in its commentary. The film is bleak, overly bleak, and is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. From the very outset, the film sets its tone and remains thoroughly depressing throughout. Characters rarely catch a break, and each narrative jump showcases some character going through some new act of horror. Yet the film is still compelling. While the characters are simple and the writing likewise, it is still able to convey the themes it wishes to and keeps you hooked. While it's hard to relate to the characters at times, especially with their constant pessimism, I was still always compelled to see if anyone would finally see a happier day, and if some kind of justice would be served. With thought-provoking themes and a graphic nature, sometimes the devil all the time was too much. Sometimes it tried to be too clever, and sometimes characters were too over the top. But when it found the right balance and hit that sweet spot, it was the perfect blend of jaw-dropping and suspense-inducing. It may be rough around the edges, but that is also part of its charm. I give The Devil All the Time 3 out of 4 stars.
3 out of 4 stars. Oh, for The
Trace.
Devil All the Time. That's right. If you are just tuning in and you just happen to want to watch something other than the debate tonight because you're tired of politics, you're tired of just 2020 in general,
You should be watching this.
you've come to the right place.
I'm be
That's
honest
right.
with you. Between this movie and the presidential debate, I don't know which one's going to be more insane.
That's true.
I don't know. Maybe this movie could be.
I don't think the debates is going to be as depressing. But-
Well,
in a different way.
I was
man.
gonna say,
it's true.
2020 has already been bleak enough.
Yeah.
But
they may not be as graphic as this film, but they might be just as
True.
equally depressing
Yeah.
and violent.
but yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. 3 out of 4 stars for. Let's go around the table, I guess, and get each and every other each of our reviews.
you know my route.
Yep. So
rating.
Sean, what about yours?
I
what
gave
did
it
you
2.5.
Okay. All right. So on the lower end.
Yes.
I think y'all are going to be a little bit shocked.
I already heard.
Yeah, I gave it 3.5
Yeah.
out of 4 stars. I thought this movie was fantastic. I truthfully, it reminded me of a Coen Brothers film.
It reminded me of No Country for Old Men.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought of.
Just not as good.
I thought of
true. I don't think it is better than that.
I honestly, it gave me a Lady Killers vibe, but without the comedy. It was
No,
just
yes.
it was just the bleak
Okay. Yeah.
depressingness.
So that's another Coen Brothers
Yes.
film. Yeah.
But I really did feel like the acting, of course, we said it while the review was going on, not a single bad actor in
No.
this film.
Oh, no.
No.
It was
the
That was what
performances
saved
are
it for me
top-notch.
was the acting performances.
The story, of course, is very bleak.
Yeah.
However, I thought the way in which it carried itself, it is based on a novel, and interestingly enough, the novelist who wrote the book also narrates the movie. And at first, I was trying to carry out throughout the movie. I was trying to figure out,
Who
is
is
he a
it?
character?
Yeah.
Is he someone in the story, or by the end of it, I'm just like, oh no, he's just a narrator, which I thought was actually a good twist in a way. It's not a twist, but I thought it was good that it was just like, no, he just kind of has this subtle undertone of explaining some of the subtleties of certain scenes. And some people could say, oh, well, that's just a crutch, to have that narration. I thought it added, knowing it was based off a novel.
Yeah, I think it depends on how narration's used, because I think it can be very useful, like it was in this movie. I really like, because it added to like the flavor of the film. It kind of added to that quirkiness that the film had when you had the narrator discussing just certain scenes and the way he would describe things, and it kind of really, the narrator was the only time you did get any lightheartedness. So I think that's part of why I enjoyed it, because it did add a little bit of a bizarre nature to the film that it already had, but it did so in a less depressing manner.
I will say the one thing about the narration that I didn't enjoy was towards the end of the film, the narrator for the first time starts to like cuss and stuff in his narration. He drops the F-bomb once, says something else, and I thought it didn't fit
took
along.
you out of it,
Yeah,
or?
it didn't fit along with the narration from the beginning of the film.
I didn't have that problem. Like
I just
didn't
thought it
feel
was
like-
weird
yeah.
because he doesn't use any language or anything like that. He has this monotone, and he's got the West Virginian accent because that's where the writer is from, and it fit with the film until he started using words that just didn't match his tone throughout the rest of the film.
I honestly
and that was kind of weird
didn't
for me.
notice at all.
Yeah, I didn't either.
There's
I
like
thought
towards
it
the
was
end of the
something I didn't
film,
pick
he
up.
says like the so-and-so got to the point where he just had that in his mind that he didn't give a F.
Yeah, but
And I'm
that's
just
because
like,
he was discussing
Well,
the patient's
I understand.
person's inner
yeah,
thoughts. So
that's
I
fine.
Just, yeah.
But nowhere else in the film did he.
You just thought it was out of place.
I just thought it was out of place.
Yeah.
It was like the F word being used in Logan. It just didn't fit at the
Now
time.
that I would agree
Now,
with.
see,
but
I would
yeah.
say the rest of the film was already so violent and graphic and full
but
of
the
language. that
but
I
the
just-
narrator wasn't at any point.
But like I
until the
said,
end.
he was describing what was in his head, like in that character's
I'd
mind.
say it didn't.
so
I
I
it
just
didn't really
I didn't
throw
feel
me
out
off
of place
guard,
to me, but
But
I do understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I just didn't. I mean, it wasn't. It didn't ruin the movie for me or nothing like that. It was just something that I thought was kind of weird with the narration. I will say that the acting in this film was insane from everybody that was in. Even the dude working at the gas station. Like I thought the
Yes.
fact that
I thought he was one of the
when he
best.
was when he meets Tom Holland's character as a child. And then later in years, he comes back and sees him and
Yes.
recognizes him. And just even the way that he portrayed or did the acting of recognizing Tom Holland.
Yes.
Like I just thought, well, man, even your like nobody characters in this film are giving it a stellar performance.
Yes.
Sebastian Stan was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Bill
playing
Skarsgård, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
favorite in the entire film was Robert Pattinson.
Yes.
You know, after seeing him in Tenet, and then of course you all reviewed The Lighthouse
Yeah, he
a
was
while
fantastic
back.
in Lighthouse.
This is no doubt one of my I think one of his best roles I've ever seen.
Yeah.
There's no doubt if anybody has mistakenly typecast him as just the sparkling vampire from Twilight, that's long gone.
Yeah.
I mean, he just
He
even
can
his
act,
off-kilter accent
Yeah.
in this is it's not
It's
obviously
disturbing.
Southern, but
It's
it is very
scary.
high pitched,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
It's unsettling.
It is. It's
Yes.
unsettling, which is perfect for his character.
Yeah.
I mean, he nailed that role. I
Yeah.
mean,
No doubt.
you were completely repulsed by him as you're supposed to be, and I mean, he was.
Well, even before you find out
yeah,
his true nature, you're repulsed by him.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of the
Yes.
way he talks.
Well, in the,
just
in the
the way
very
he-
first scene,
just the way
they
he
set
treats,
him up.
yeah, the way he treats
Yes.
the people in the church,
Parishioners,
and,
yeah.
and the way he like just kind of like, in a way that he doesn't single them out, but at the same time he does, and like
Yes.
humiliates them, knowing that everybody knows who that person is, even though he doesn't have to say. It's like
Yeah.
you could tell that he's very calculated in how he
Yeah.
destroys people, and it's sick.
Well, the other thing that I loved about this film was just how it kept me on edge. And as the story continued, one thing that I just kept wanting to figure out was, I mean, I told Keith this before he recorded the review. I was kind of like, you know, it's weird. It's almost become a subgenre of films where you have all these different storylines that are threads that tie together. And this is no different. This is one of those. But it does so in such a way that it has connections that are like connections. Like the very first few characters you meet, they all end up happening to be in a diner. So it ties it together that way. And then, of course, as the movie goes on, they then start to interweave those timelines and those characters together. And I thought the way in which the movie did it was not only well-paced, but I thought that's what gave it life and what kept me wanting to just stay glued to the screen to see what was coming next.
I agree with that.
And obviously the main character in particular, Tom Holland, I was just obviously cheering for him the whole time and hoping that nothing bad happened.
Yeah.
And that kind of keeping you on the edge of your seat was by far the reason why I gave it the score
I think
did.
what compelled me the most, I mean, I did love the way it interweaved, and I thought it actually handled that better than most films. But just using the interweaving plot points and story to showcase the themes and how, like, what happened to, like, Bill Skarsgård's character and his life and, like, what affected his life and how he would teach things to Tom Holland's character, and his actions and traumas and things also affect his son, but his son also has the benefit of learning from his dad and also using those things his dad taught him to not make the same mistakes. And it's kind of interesting how all these themes like affected each character in different
Yes.
ways, and how each action affected each different character in different ways, and how, again, you see Tom Holland kind of use all these different scenarios to kind of traverse like this interweaving story and connect everything and come out with in a different outcome than the rest of the characters had.
Well, obviously, though, we ended up. So you gave it 3. I gave it 3.5. Sean, you gave it 2.5. But let's kind of, I guess, talk about some of the things we didn't like about the film, since we're all kind of across the board.
Yeah.
But Sean, with you giving it the lowest score, what were some of the things that you just didn't appreciate?
Well, the acting saved the movie for me. I really did like the story in the beginning, and I began to see how all of these different people's lives were going to connect. Like, I had a lot of it figured out throughout the film, but I think maybe the biggest thing for me was there was a lot of different ways that I saw the film going, and maybe was let down because it didn't go any of those paths. Sometimes we get it in our heads how something should end or how it could end, and then when it doesn't, we kind of feel let down. And I think that might be it. Like I said, it's not a bad movie at all.
But you
just
thought it would go in a
didn't-
different
It
direction.
didn't resonate with me mostly because of the direction that it did go. I really felt like the gun was going to play more of a key
I thought
part
it
of the
did.
film.
Yeah,
Well,
I did
I
too.
understand that it did subliminally, but I felt like it was going to end up being this. I'll tell you right off the bat, like when he started using the gun to enact and basically kill some of the bad people in the film, I began to think that it was going to tie back into how the gun was supposedly the gun that Hitler killed himself with.
Oh, I gotcha.
And I really thought that him saying that at the beginning was going to end up being the end of the film, where we see something or along those lines of like, almost like the gun is the star of the film. The gun is what has taken out the evil throughout
Interesting.
the lives of the people that it's come in
But I feel
contact
like
with.
that would have been too much.
Well,
like,
it may have
too hokey to be like, see, it was.
It may have been.
Right.
But
I
yeah.
thought they set it up.
I don't know.
I really just was expecting more from that part of the story. I know that was a hand-me-down, and it does. He ends up using it, and the only people that fall victim to it are evil people.
Yeah.
I really, and then, but again at the end, I really thought that it was going to end up being kind of a Game of Thrones situation where even he meets his end, because he has done evil things, even though he's done them in a vigilante kind of way.
Right.
There were still sins that he was going to need to pay for, which it kind of leaves the end of the movie open to where maybe someday he will pay for those sins by going to Vietnam and dying on the battlefield. Or maybe he will, I really thought the guy that picks him up at the end was going to do something
I
to him.
actually did too.
And
that was actually, and I was glad nothing happened.
Well, yeah,
But
you want him
I mean,
to
with
survive.
spoiler alert if you want to watch the
Yeah,
movie,
yeah.
because it kind of gives a little bit of it away here. But I actually was glad that didn't, but I thought the same thing. He
I
was
was like,
off just enough that
Yes.
I thought, something's going to happen. But mine were kind of nitpicky. For instance, the part where he goes back to his childhood home and he revisits, the scene of this, horrific thing that he faced when he was younger.
Right.
I love the fact that symbolically he buries the gun. I did not like the fact that he buries the bones.
Yeah.
I was like, those would be gone.
Animals would have carried those
there's
off by
no
now, yeah.
chance that would have, because
I did like that. There's that in there, but they did only have a few of them. It wasn't like he had the whole skeleton.
True.
It
I
was
just
just a
thought
couple of bones
also,
and a skull.
I felt like there would have been some kind of remains left on there if they had survived at all. I just felt like they literally looked
They were
like
very
he went and bought
white.
them.
They were bleached
Yeah,
white.
bleached
Yes,
white, yeah.
and I just thought that was a little too
Yeah,
perfect.
I can see that.
And then there was also a couple, they weren't bad, but editing. Again, minor spoiler. But there's a scene where the woman shoots him with the blanks.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as it happens, they cut to him. They describe why there's blanks in the gun.
Yeah.
Which I thought was clever.
Yeah.
But I wish they would have carried that on a little bit longer, because there's another scene where the sheriff gets there, and as he's walking up to the car, he knows that's his sister, but then you hear the sheriff tell him, or the other police officer tell him, he's like, she had blanks in
How
the
would they
gun.
know that?
Well,
They
because
could
you
tell,
could
yeah.
tell if there's no bullet. It's just the cap without the bullet on the
okay.
end. But it was interesting because I was like, that would have been the time for them to have cut and said, why were there blanks in the gun? Like because it would have still kept you like on the edge of your seat of like, did he get shot? Did he actually
He's saying
survive
he wished
that?
the reveal had come when he said there were blanks, rather than
yeah.
As
showing-
opposed
Okay.
to just
Yeah.
cutting to the point where you see them
Like it
showing
would have been
why
cool
there
if
were
they had
blanks.
waited for the cop to say there were blanks
Yeah.
and then explained why the blanks.
And so
were
there were little things like that where I was just like the editing it wasn't bad by any means, but it was a little too straightforward.
Yeah.
And I thought that would have had they mixed that up a little bit, especially early on when they're telling their story. I thought those would have been some better things that would have pushed it over to like a 4-star rating for me.
Wow. Okay.
Keith, what about you?
I mean, again, it was minor stuff. Like I mean, the bones bothered me too. Just different, and I can't place exactly. Just there was things about that I felt like I wish had been a little bit more fleshed out, like his relationship with his grandmother, and just different things to add a little bit more emotion. Like I did care about Tom Holland,
Yeah.
and I mean I was
His
fascinated.
sister was the main.
Well, I was saying
Yeah.
I cared about him, and I was very fascinated about what was going on with everybody. And I mean, I cared about his adopted sister as well, and what happened to her.
Yeah.
Like, definitely shocked me. But outside of them two, I just kind of wanted a little bit more meat, and I understand like those characters weren't the focus, and it had a very quick pace, even though it was a 2.5 hour long movie almost.
Yeah.
But I just kind of like. I felt like I got some meat with his dad and him and the adopted sister, but everyone else is like I didn't really like. It was fascinating to see what happened to them, but I didn't care about what was happening to them as much. Yeah.
No, I get that, and I think by all means, I think it's a movie that is worth watching.
Absolutely. I mean, I would watch it again. I really,
yeah,
I really enjoyed it. I just didn't think it was
One of the-
good enough for.
We have a viewer who actually brought up a couple of questions just about the movie, how he wanted to know what happened to the guy in the wheelchair after he was left by his brother. And then the other thing was he said that Tom Holland's character as a child, when he's narrating, or the narrator said that he was going to sneak out while his dad was asleep to bury the dog.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
So where
yeah.
did he get the bones from?
The dog
well,
was
the
still
dog
on the cross.
was, yeah,
That's
the
when
dog
he found
was
his
actually
dad dead.
because his dog or the dad goes out there.
So he doesn't take the dog down and bury it.
No, the
not at
cops
that
come.
point, yeah.
Okay.
Because he goes and gets he goes and the one guy at the gas station, calls the sheriff or the cop.
Okay, yeah,
And then
I
he
remember.
comes
I
and,
remember.
yeah,
That's
Sorry.
the significance of him.
Sorry,
burying,
Brian.
Yeah, that's
You're wrong.
That was the significance of him
Although
burying.
Well,
the
I will
bones.
say one thing
I don't know
that
about
Brian.
the wheelchair though.
Yeah, what happened to the guy in the wheelchair?
That's
the first
I was just like
pastor's
that was
brother.
the significance of him burying the bones was because he never got to bury.
He never
the
got
dog.
to.
Yeah.
He went back to do
I
it.
got
I
you.
see that now.
Yeah. Now, the guy in the wheelchair, I agree with that a little bit. That maybe, but again, he was never a central or important character.
Right.
That was
I don't
the,
even
It's just
remember
another
that
tragic
was-
thing that happened
yeah.
to somebody. You left a
That
crippled
was,
guy.
Yeah,
they
that
can't
was
drive.
the brother. He was,
Out in the
he was
middle
the
of
brother
nowhere.
of the guy that killed the woman.
The
yes,
spider guy.
Yes.
Bill
Yeah.
Skarsgård, the woman his mom was trying to hook him up with.
Yes.
Yeah, the spider pastor dude that was crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, it was his brother.
That's
And
right.
That guy was another guy that,
so-
like,
and-
the acting from that guy. I don't know who
Yes.
the hell he
was
is.
great.
That whole
but
entire
he was
scene
insane.
was shocking.
Oh, I know.
Like I knew something was going to happen because
Yeah.
they told you, but I didn't know in what way.
I didn't expect that.
I didn't either.
I fully expected like him to do something to her, and even spoiler alert. I really don't want to spoil too much, but
Listen,
I expected him to
We've
murder
been talking
her.
about this movie being our movie of review for a week. So
Yeah.
if you haven't seen it, that's your
It's
fault.
true.
We've
That's
given
right.
people plenty
We're
of
trying to
notice.
give people
I
time.
expected him to kill her. I didn't
Yes.
expect all of what was involved.
Well, yes.
As far as like how big of a nut
Well,
job he was.
And honestly, that was
Yes.
another thing that I liked about the film, where I did like some of the thematic elements they used with regard to the overt, like blasphemous Christianity.
Oh, yes.
that's
Yeah.
used.
I think
and
that was
how,
one of the things that hurt me. in
but
the
see,
movie.
and that's what I loved though was it was like this. I could see this not only being real, but I love that it kind of shows you that. I think the whole point of the title of the movie, "The Devil All the Time," is that it's like it's not God working through these things.
Yeah.
They claim it's God. They're
Yeah.
praying to
Every
him,
one of these
but
bad
all of
guys.
it is a selfish
Yeah.
act and a motivation
Yeah.
of trying to get God to fit in their
Well,
box.
and again, it
and
goes-
of course, that's how the devil
Yeah.
uses them to get his will done.
And it goes back to when the narrator's talking about how Tom Holland's character thought, his dad was fighting the devil all the time.
All the
Yes.
time.
And that was kind of like the running theme about the story is that all these people are abusing their power or using religion to hiding behind religion to commit their evil deeds.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
the,
it's just
the
kinda-
people in the
yeah.
car, the couple, the photographer and
Yeah.
stuff, when
Oh,
he's
man.
quoting scripture and they're
Yeah.
singing gospel songs and stuff, and then they go right off the
Yeah.
road and do the stuff that they do.
I'm
It
telling
just
you.
blew my mind.
Yeah, it was
But
creepy.
I will say I wanted to go ahead and quote him because I loved his interpretation of the film. But Brian, our neighbor, told me in a text message that to him this movie was the extreme adult version of Lemony Snicket's series of unfortunate events.
No idea.
and I
yeah.
was like, I can
I've
see
never
that.
seen it.
In some ways, yeah, I love a series of unfortunate events.
Yes. It's just one depressing, bleak,
But, yeah,
sad thing after
that.
another.
And sometimes I like that's why I love. But see, a series of unfortunate events is very comedic about it.
Yes, this is
whereas
not.
this is not.
Yeah.
But I do love stuff like that sometimes. Sometimes I like just being bombarded
Yeah.
with like this depressing.
I don't
like,
want a happy
I don't
movie
know.
every time.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah,
and
I don't
that's
either.
another thing that I did like about the movie. Yes, it was depressing,
But there
and
were
it's-
some
it's
uplifting
just-
moments.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
there were
it has
moments
its
that,
moments.
like in this time period and in these people's lives, there were subtle things that you could see they could be like. What I loved about it was as bleak as it was, there were also moments that were glimmers of hope,
Mm-hmm.
and there were just moments where I was like, yeah, I could see living back in that time.
In that area, yeah,
in
in
that
that part
era,
of the
in that
country, yeah.
area, like there's the simplest little thing that could, brighten your day.
Yeah.
And all the way from his dad, just him and his wife, played by Haley Bennett, but both of them like just trying to save up and get a house.
Yeah.
like the simplest little thing like that, and they were proud of
You just like the
themselves.
squinty
No running
the squinty
water,
eyes,
none of
that's
that.
all.
I'm,
Like
I'm
that
telling
was-
you, she was.
Neil also watched it because he emailed us. I don't know if you
Yes,
also
I
seen
did see the email.
He did not care for it either. They actually watched two movies. Him and Megan watched Spotlight and this.
Yeah.
They cared for Spotlight more, which Honestly, I would say I liked this more. Not
I like
Not
this
that I
one more.
dislike Spotlight. It's fine for what it is, but I was much more entertained by this film.
Agreed.
But in regards to this movie, he had stated, I watched The Devil All the Time while the wife was away. Didn't love it, mainly because I didn't really get the point of it. The lives of people in two small towns are intermingled? ? Cool, but why is that one couple forcing hitchhikers to bang the wife and then mutilate/kill them?
They
It
got a
reminded me of
it's a-
Tarantino violence for violence's sake.
It's a
which,
fetish,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
was a serial killer, basically.
Yeah, that's all they were. That's exactly what they were. And it kind of reminded me of
He said
Mindhunter
ultimately he
on
felt like they were
Netflix.
trying to make
yeah.
a film and less of a movie, which there are things I think that are like that try to be too art house and don't really. But I didn't really feel like this.
I
was
didn't
one
feel
of
like
those,
that.
yeah.
I really did feel
But
like
I understand why Neil feels that way.
it was like
I
a
just disagree.
Coen Brothers and David Fincher mix to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, David Fincher's films can be a little bit more.
Yeah.
They have a little bit more of a directed point, but they have also that off kilter
Yes.
nature as well. And so it kind of gave me that thought. But I thought it was fantastic. But you know what? Neil emailed us just
That's
like
right.
any
Yeah. That's
one
what
of
we
our
want people to
viewers
do.
can do, and it's right there at the bottom of your screen right now. RMPodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
.com.
So if you watch our films, of course you can do what Brian did, and you can just join in on the discussion on Facebook or YouTube.
Absolutely.
And you can also email us at rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
And if you do, we might mention your email on the show, especially if you have an opinion or a question that you feel strongly about. We're happy to answer or discuss.
Of course
Yep.
we are. No doubt. All right, guys, I think we've talked about this movie enough.
Yeah.
I think we are finally actually ready to head into our headlines. So why don't we go along and do that? That's right, our top stories this week. We're talking about, well, I don't know. It's going to be a pretty bad. I don't know. There's not a lot of news
It's
this
a little
week.
slow.
It's a little slow.
News-wise for Hollywood, which, I mean, what do they really got? Theaters are drying up.
Yeah.
They can't
No.
release anything. Most of the news is just what they're pushing back.
Well,
One
we
thing,
got- that's-
one thing I did see that's beside this was that Tenet may very well become a VOD before the end of the year.
Yeah. And
It's
I think
going to be on Blu-ray before the end of the year.
It
but
just
they're thinking
crossed the $300 million mark
Yeah.
globally, but it's only just over $40 million in the U.S.,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, it's
abysmal.
abysmal.
they need a
So yeah, I think you're right.
they need a shot.
Yep, and the shot in the arm.
Yep.
That definitely
Like
does.
booster
Well,
shot.
they want to make that money back, and they know if they
I
put
don't
it
blame
on
'em.
if they put it on VOD,
Absolutely.
people are going to rent it. So.
Yeah.
I'm going to.
Well, exactly.
not.
Well, is it going to be?
I want to buy it.
That's what I want.
Yeah,
if
I'll
I've
buy-
already
I'll
seen
buy
it,
the
and since it came out in
4K
theaters,
Blu-ray.
is it going to be released not just video on demand, but to buy? That's what I want to know.
I have the Christopher Nolan 4K collection, so I'll definitely buy
gotta
Tenet.
add to
you
that.
got to add to it,
Yeah.
Or you just got to buy the new collection when they keep adding movies.
True.
And just come out with a whole new collection and pay $90 every time for it.
Granted, it doesn't have Memento, which I don't know why.
No,
Probably
I just
not shot in
downloaded that to
4K.
It
rewatch it
starts
again.
with like
So good.
If you've never
Yeah.
seen it, it'll be on my Plex.
Keith,
I
you
don't have-
haven't seen it, have you?
no, I don't have access to his 4K Plex though. Like you'll have to like resend.
It's not. I don't have the 4K version.
Oh,
It's
okay.
on my
It's just a
regular,
regular-
Plex.
But either way, I still don't have access to your because you're talking about all the Hitchcock films you download in 4K. I can't. I can only the only two libraries are like normal. There's no 4K on there. I don't know why.
I thought I shared it with you.
But we'll
I'll
discuss
fix that
that.
when I get
We'll
home.
discuss
we'll,
that
we'll
later.
figure that out because we got to watch our Hitchcock
Because
films.
we do.
So what's our main topic?
But we do
though?
have actual things to discuss. Yeah.
Yes, because as we were talking about the cancellations and pushing things back, the fact is yes, D23,
Mm-hmm.
a biennial, I think is how you pronounce it, celebration from Disney that shows all things, of course, that are coming attractions, theatrical releases. D23 has been delayed not just to next year, but to actually 2022.
Well, it was supposed to because it's every
supposed
other
to
year.
come
it was
back,
supposed
come
to
out
next year.
biannual.
biannual.
I don't know.
I always
looked
thought
it
it
up
was
yesterday.
biannual, but it's
Biannual?
spelled like he
Yeah,
said
I
like
know.
biennial.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's a kind of a tomato thing, but
Tomato.
Tomato. Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, so they're pushing that back. From my understanding, they do two different events. Like one, like both are every other year, and they have them on the opposite.
Yeah.
So the event that was supposed to happen this year, they push back till next year.
And
And
then
that's
they
something,
push this
that's
one
something they
back.
do in Florida. I forget what it's called, and I have to look it up again.
So
So, then
that
they push
mean-
T23 back
which
to
means we're not going to get our
2022.
Lion King 2.
I'm not worried about that.
We're not going to get the trailer for our next live action Beyonce Thriller. Okay,
Thriller.
Thriller. I want a live
Black
action.
is King?
Black is King. That's right. We already know that.
Yeah.
I mean, what other? I mean, are we really disappointed that D23 is pushed back, or is it just one of those things where I mean, because they talk about it in the essence of we're close to it being the 100th anniversary of Disney, and obviously because they're pushing this one back, then that means that the 24th D24 will be
it's gonna be
the actual
longer.
100th anniversary.
It's very. I honestly don't care that much. Because so much stuff news is constantly being posted online nowadays anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, it does stink that, like, it is always cool when they do events and release, like, trailers and different things, and especially since Disney owns Marvel and Star Wars, they release a lot of info about that. But with all the movies being pushed back, it's like, we already know what's going to be coming out the next 2 years because they haven't released this year.
Yeah.
So, really, it's like, anything they were going to announce at D23 isn't going to come out until 2023 anyways. Yeah. So at this point, I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter.
True. And that's kind of been the news throughout this whole entire year. It's just things getting pushed back and basically being set up for
only news.
I mean, it really has been. And it's just like everything has been on hold. And I think the entire movie industry is just like it's pushed back a whole year. And even then we don't know because who knows what's going to happen in January and if things really will open up. We're kind of waiting on the big cities and we already know that they're not opening up anytime soon.
Ever open up ever again.
This
is the new
this
status
is the
quo.
end of the theaters as we know it.
Yes.
That's all. So we're not really we don't really care about
It's
D23
about happier things. There's a rumor circulating
Yeah,
about Henry Cavill.
I think we could talk about
not
that.
just a rumor because he himself has come out and said that he
He's
would
been wanting it for a
love
while.
to be hired as Bond. And while there's multiple people I think would be a good fit for it, I would be okay with that.
I would be too.
I do like Henry Cavill.
He's a little big.
He is.
He's
He is
kind
a
of
bit-
on the brawny side, but yeah,
No
he would
more than
play-
I think Daniel
play the part
Craig.
good.
Yeah, here's the thing.
What?
Well, I don't think so.
Dude,
I see him
taller,
with Henry
but
Cavill.
not-
I
Could
was
eat Daniel Craig.
Yeah,
well,
he's
yeah,
he's
but
taller.
that's why because he's taller.
He's
yeah.
taller, but I don't think because I've seen him slim and things too. I mean, the Tudors and
To me, freaking Mission
That was before he got
Impossible.
big, though.
yeah, but you can
Well,
always slim
since he's
down.
been
You
big,
can
he's-
you can lose muscle mass and slim down if he.
I don't know why
He'd
he
have
would,
to get
though.
Now, I don't know why
cancer
he would
to
need
lose weight.
to.
Yeah.
To lose that
Oh my
muscle mass,
gosh.
that's what it would take.
No, I mean you just watch that way you don't turn things. To
I'm
fat,
just
but you
joking
just,
about
I
how
know.
massive Henry Cavill.
Oh, he is massive. I don't think he's that ripped though,
Dude,
So-
he's
I don't think so
ripped.
either. I honestly, I think Mission Impossible was it. Which one was the last one? Rogue Nation, or no? What was it after that?
I don't remember.
Maybe it was Rogue Nation. All I know is the one where he
Yeah.
was the bad guy because he had the mustache that
Yeah.
they had to try to edit out. and-
Yeah.
yeah. All I know
Well, he
is that.
wasn't really the bad guy, but he was.
Well,
in the way, yeah.
yes, he was set up that way, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
But
But-
the thing is I honestly thought he looked the right size in that film, and I mean, of course,
The Man from U.N.C.L.E. he looks normal. I mean, if he wears
Yeah.
a suit, he's fine.
and the biggest thing is how
It's
many
a tight T-shirt. that
how
makes
many
it look-
movies do we see Henry Cavill in where he uses his accent? Not very many.
No.
He typically has an American accent.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to actually see him perform.
He has an accent in The Witcher, but that's not exactly a.
yeah,
No,
that's
yeah.
not a that's, not an English
accent.
no.
Yeah.
So it'll be
Something
kind of
different.
cool to see him as
Yeah.
an English,
Fienglish
actor.
is what I call it.
Hey, he had an
Fake
accent
English.
in The Tudors and The Count of Monte Cristo.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
But
Actually,
those
the
are
Count of
both
Monte
his
Cristo,
older works, though.
Fantastic. First time I ever saw
Yeah.
Henry
He
Cavill.
wasn't ripped in that either, but he was also very young. So
Yeah.
Well, he couldn't be because Desmond, or no wait,
Edmund Dantes.
Edmund
Yeah.
Dantes had to save him.
Yeah.
That's why. Otherwise, it
Well,
would
he
have
was just
defeated
this-
the purpose
this-
of that movie.
Yeah.
this young guy.
He was
that's-
big in the Immortals too, though. He
True.
had already started getting big.
Yeah.
But
I mean, he was perfect as Superman, and he's definitely
Yeah,
ripped in The
I
Witcher.
think
so
I
he
think
can.
what we're trying to say is there would be a welcomed addition
We
to the
would like
Bond
that.
family.
I would
Yeah.
say,
Would.
yeah, seeing him as Sherlock Holmes, I was like, yeah, he could definitely do Bond as well.
I agree.
So,
I agree. I hope, honestly, with all the talk, I'd be fine with him or Idris Elba. Either
Yeah.
one of those, I'd be fine with.
Yeah.
I like Tom Hiddleston as well.
Tom Hiddleston. No,
Hiddleston.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah.
I like
Loki.
him as well.
Yeah.
Loki.
Loki would be good.
I think
I
he's
think he'd be good.
To me, I don't mind him in his suave nature, but I think he's too scrawny. I think he doesn't do. I mean, yeah, he
Well,
could
he could
beef
bulk
up.
Yeah.
but I don't think he plays the part.
Well, not every Bond. Like Daniel Craig's been the most physical Bond. Like they're all actually have been physical, but not all of them are like I'm going to knock the crap out of you.
Yeah,
like
true.
Daniel Craig.
You haven't seen The Night Manager though. If you watch that on Amazon, like that series,
Yeah.
Tom Hiddleston's he's
Pretty
cut,
beefy.
Yeah. He's just tall. He's kind of tall, but he's good. He'd be awesome.
Okay. All right. So then we have.
Idris Elba's old though, man. That's
There
my
was-
thing.
but
It's like,
That's who it was that I don't. And not that he's not, because he's a phenomenal actor, but I just don't care for him as Bond. Is Tom Hardy? There's a lot of people
oh
saying
yeah,
Tom
yeah,
No.
no.
And
No.
everybody keeps saying Tom Hardy, and I'm like, I love Tom
No.
Hardy, but I don't see him as Bond.
I don't either.
He's too quirky. There's something.
He's very short.
Yeah.
too.
He's,
Oh yeah.
well, I think Tom Cruise would be a great James Bond.
Yeah.
I'd love to
He
see
can't
him
be Mission
with the-
Impossible and
I
James
would love
Bond.
to see it with an English accent.
Oh.
I
Well,
think he could
they-
do it.
Well, that's the thing is they only hire English actors to play Bond,
Which is
so-
good.
Which
I'm
is
glad.
good. I mean, it's authentic, but
What's
it
the
just-
one where he was a German, where he was
Valkyrie?
Oh, Valkyrie.
He
He
Yeah.
had
Yes.
a perfect English accent.
Yeah, I
Yeah, the
know.
whole
he couldn't even do a
time,
German
yes.
accent.
Well, none of them had German accents in that
Yeah.
movie. That movie was terrible. I'm like, I
Are you
understand.
sure?
I
I thought
liked
he
it.
was the only one
I
that
liked
didn't.
the movie, but only it was literally a reminder
I didn't care
of,
for the movie
of now
either.
having seen all of the Best Picture winners we've reviewed early on.
Uh-huh.
It reminds me of like All Quiet, where I'm like, okay, this is from the German perspective, but none of these people are
Don't have
German,
an
Yeah,
accent.
and they don't even try. I mean, it's like or Miss Miniver,
Oh,
Yeah.
where they
Yeah,
where
That's
the-
exactly what Valkyrie is. It's like
Yes.
you
Yeah.
just have this plain white dude, and it's like he's supposed to be this German general,
Yep.
and I'm like, what is? It's like Tom Cruise is horrible.
No.
Like who
They-
hired him
hey,
to do this?
he's the only guy that could play that, a German general, and a samurai. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
But
telling
at
you, Tom
least,
Cruise
at least
has
in
got
Last Samurai, he was supposed to be a white dude. Like
True.
he's not trying to play. It's not
Yeah.
like they were like he's a Japanese samurai.
But no, I'd honestly be fine to me with Idris Elba or Henry Cavill. those to me, I think, are the best picks. If they try to throw, I don't know. I think to me they've got a better build.
Yeah.
And we're so used to seeing Bond as this action-oriented character.
I thought
It's-
Robert Pattinson was in the mix too.
he
I
can't
thought
be
he-
Batman, and
But I thought his name had been thrown around for Bond.
if it had been, I don't remember.
I could see that.
I could have sworn.
And
it
I
was
and
one
I
of the
as much
names
as
that-
I praise him as being a great actor, he can't be everything. I don't know. It's like I want somebody who.
Well, Henry Cavill's been a lot of
he
iconic
has, but
characters.
again, it's like I go back to the fact that we haven't really seen him take on a role. Superman has been butchered.
Yeah.
That's
He,
true.
he,
Not-
he
not
needs
his
a
fault, but
role.
yeah, you're
it's
right.
like he's not Superman to me because they just ruined that. They ruined him as that character. And so it's like I'd love to see him as James Bond. I mean, Daniel Craig, you didn't know he was a nobody till freaking 007. And so I'm like, I kind of want Henry Cavill to show his chops, but also
I think he's found that with The Witcher, but it's only had one season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I
you
think
can't-
as that
yeah.
goes on, I think
Maybe.
it might because
Right.
The Witcher's really like I really enjoy that show, and I think I've noticed that he was good in roles before, but I think The Witcher is the one where I'm like, oh yeah, Henry Cavill has more range.
Well,
than
he's
just,
it's a role that he's passionate about.
Yes.
Because he's a gamer and he's
Yeah.
read the books, he's played all the games, and he's into PC games.
Well, I mean,
and
I
all
think
that kind
he's
of
a
stuff.
perfect Superman.
So-
It's just that the movies and story,
Well,
that's
that's
Zack
not
Snyder's
his
fault.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not his fault. And I'm hoping that they give him another shot with a competent director because I think he could become a
Yeah.
very iconic
But
Superman.
and to me, that's what his next break is. It's like, okay, leave Superman behind
Yeah.
and do this role.
Well, he still wants
and
to.
be
He wants
James
to do both.
Bond.
Yeah, he said
I know he wants
to.
to, but I
He can.
that's where I'm kind of like, nah, you can't have your cake and eat
Yeah,
it
you
too.
can.
Give up Superman, let somebody else don
You
the
can have
cape,
your cake.
and you can be 007 and just be 007.
We'll see.
Give someone else a chance to be.
I'm
Superman.
perfectly okay with him being Geralt, Superman, and James
It's too
Bond.
much.
That's
It's
not.
too much.
There's
Make Tom Hardy Superman. Okay.
Tom Hardy would not. No.
no, I agree.
Look,
That's-
man, Charlton Heston was Ben-Hur and Moses
Still doesn't matter.
and the Omega Man
Okay.
and Planet of the Apes.
Apes.
He was everybody back in his day.
That's different.
There's
and
no,
he was the president of the NRA.
That was a different time. A different time in Hollywood. That is not the case anymore.
there's still
There's
people
plenty
that-
of other great actors.
Robert Downey Jr.'s had tons of. I mean, he's been Iron Man. He's been Sherlock Holmes.
He's been Iron Man.
He's been a
I
drug
mean,
addict
Yeah, he's been he's been Charlie Chaplin.
True.
You know, you
and a
could-
drug addict.
and a drug addict. He's had his hand up a dragon's butt. I mean, you know.
I don't remember that
True.
one.
Dr. Doolittle.
Dr.
Oh,
Doolittle.
oh gosh, there was a dragon in that movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What the hell?
He pulls
What?
stuff
We
out of its butt.
we discussed this on the
We did.
podcast with
I
you
don't
sitting
remember
right
this.
there.
That's literally the last scene of
yeah,
the film.
It's
is
him pulling things out of the
pulling
dragon's
things out of a dragon's butt.
butthole. Yeah. We talked. You had the same reaction. You had the same exact reaction
I
that
do
time
not-
too.
I don't remember this at all. I don't remember this at all.
You need to watch it.
Yeah, we have to go back and watch that episode.
What episode was it? How long ago was
it? Was
that?
when the movie. It would have been back in December because that's when the movie first
the
came
sad
out.
thing is the only
Yeah.
movie I can think of is like Peach Dragon.
Oh, that's a
And-
good one.
But now I'm picturing like that dragon and him
With
pulling
Robert Downey Jr.
pulling crap
stuff
out of his butt.
Fist of the Dragon.
Yeah. I don't remember that at all.
yeah.
I'll go back and watch, but
It's there.
terrible. All right.
Not one of our best shows.
I think, well, how many of these are? I mean, every week.
we didn't even review that movie. I don't know how we ended up talking about it, but
Probably because it was a step backward for Robert Downey Jr.
it was
and
a major step back.
not only
yeah.
that, but
He
it's
did
like,
Endgame and then
Yes,
that.
it was literally his next thing after Endgame.
Was him pulling things out of a dragon's
I mean,
butt.
and I remember them pushing that hard, and I was like, this is going to be awful.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm glad to see, like, he's trying something different, but that was not it. That should not have been it. All right. So Henry Cavill, be a good Bond. I think we're ready to move on to our unique weekly segment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You know what? Let's hit that intro.
Multimedia. Multimedia.
Multimedia. That's right. That's
I
right.
have not heard.
You haven't heard? I don't know why you haven't heard. Bird is the word.
I was thinking that. Bird is the word.
Oh gosh! All right,
gonna play
let's. Well, I figured we'd leave a little bit of time for this topic because this may end up.
Honestly, this is bigger news than any
yeah.
thing Hollywood has right now.
Especially
so.
to us right
Yeah.
now.
well, especially after some news that I saw breaking before the show, which is we've already heard rumors. Okay, we kind of teased it last week,
Yeah.
but the fact is, PS5, Xbox Series X/S are coming out in November. They're both competitive in terms of price point, and they both had chaotic pre-order releases.
They did.
Of course, Sony was a little botched theirs, not necessarily due to their fault, but because retailers jumped way ahead of the game and got people in
honestly,
a frenzy.
Both of the pre-order mess was on the retailers.
Yes.
It's a little bit worse for Sony
Than it was for Microsoft.
than it was for Microsoft, but it really was the retailers both times that
Yeah.
kind of botched it. So,
but the fact is so you all both locked in your pre-orders for the PlayStation 5. You
mine was by pure luck.
well
I mean, technically both were.
both of
but-
us were,
yeah. I was gonna say, but pure luck. But also, we all signed up for an email.
We signed
from
up for
Sony.
an email that originally stated be the first to know when we go on pre-order, and then somehow changed into have a chance at getting a pre-order.
Yes,
Yeah.
I tried to defend Sony, and I will totally eat my words and give you. You called them out, Keith, and rightly so, because I'll tell you right now, they not only botched it, but then the fact that they didn't send out the emails to tell about the pre-order, they announced it when they announced the price.
Well, I forget-
and they didn't even give anybody a chance who had originally signed up for
I think
those
it was the
emails.
CEO
there was no
of-
rhyme or reason who got an email to say, "Hey,
Yeah.
go pre-order."
I'm pretty sure it was the CEO of the American division of Sony that had stated, "We will let you know with plenty of time when pre-orders go.
Yes.
It won't
Yeah.
just be a
They're-
surprise.
We're not just going to drop it on you.
And then all of a sudden, it was a surprise.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a surprise because not only did Sony drop the ball, but then you had Walmart,
Walmart
who
royally
leapt ahead
screwed
of
the pooch,
everybody and
yeah.
was like, "Oh, you don't have to wait till tomorrow when the pre-orders go
Yeah.
live. Do it now."
Yep.
Why? And then so of course anybody who's not paying attention to the news or is
Twitter
busy doing
because
something.
Walmart posted on Twitter,
Yeah.
and that's
Yes.
if you did.
Well, that's where Sony posted it. They didn't even say it at their own
No,
event.
no, they
They
didn't.
literally, like 5 minutes after it ended, they posted on Twitter, "Oh, and by the way, pre-orders go on
Oh, and
sale
I
tomorrow."
forget his name. The guy who heads up the Game Awards.
Oh yeah.
He was the one that actually
He broke it
asked
first, I
Sony,
believe, yeah.
and then he was the one that said rumors are like Sony confirmed pre-orders tomorrow, and then of course Sony then came out with a tweet like maybe an hour later confirming it, and then all of a sudden that was when Walmart jumped
then,
the gun
like,
and said,
yeah, like,
"No, do it now."
2 hours after that, Walmart
they
was
literally
like,
said, "Nah,
Yeah.
we're not going to make you wait. Go ahead and start tonight."
Yeah,
or
why
whatever."
wait?
yeah,
And
which
so
was wrong on Walmart's part.
Yeah.
totally wrong. And so it's left all these people. You've had scalpers who've gotten theirs. You've had just run of the mill luck of people who have gotten their pre-orders in. And then the biggest news that broke today for both the Xbox Series XS and PS5. PS5 was probably about a week ago. Some of those pre-orders are getting canceled.
yeah. They
So they
again
they said, "Oh, we're going to have enough. Definitely, there's going to be other waves." But now we're even seeing after 2 or 3 waves of pre-orders, They're freaking
Well, I will
canceling
defend
some of them.
Sony again on this because, again, this is on the fault of the retailers. Sony says they do still have some stock that will be getting shipped out to retailers, but retailers are actually selling more than they have coming in. So then when they get some in, they have to go back and cancel pre-orders because they didn't get enough in to cover them. And it's like, okay, the retailers shouldn't be doing that either. Like if you know you're only getting 100 in stock, don't sell 200 and hope you get more.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is what they're doing. They're trying to like pressure Sony into no. We've got more to sell through. Like, give us more units. And Sony's like, we only have so many. And granted, they've already come out and said we're going to have more than the PS4 launch, which baffles me because I was one of those first people when the PS4 came out.
Yeah, I had
that
no
actually
problem getting
pre-ordered,
a PS4.
got a PS4. Great experience.
Yep.
Don't remember this at all.
No problem.
And I'm sitting here thinking, if they're going to have more of these, either this is way higher demand or they literally did not do near a good enough
they're
job.
going to make 4 million more units than the PS4.
See, that's
at launch.
insane. Then how are they running out of pre-orders as fast as they are?
Well, from my
They
understanding,
don't have them now.
they're slowly trickling them out, and the retailers are selling more than what they're actually guaranteed to have. So it's creating this chaotic mess, and who knows? Maybe by launch date there will be plenty on the shelves or plenty for people to get. I mean, I would hope so if there's going to be more than the PS4.
That's what I'm
But
counting
it really
on right
sucks
now.
that even though me and you have ours secured, and we've even they've actually pending the payment on our credit cards.
True.
Like, I mean, we've gotten that. Walmart took the money, or they didn't take the money, but it says $500 whatever pending. Like, they've already made sure that the card works and they're ready to charge it.
Sony charged my
to
card.
think that I might get an email saying that my pre-order's canceled,
Yes.
that's gonna freaking set me into a.
Well, I'm not
Blaze.
worried about
I
that
bet.
since mine came direct from Sony. I would hope Sony's not selling more than they actually have, so I'm not so concerned with that. But it was what did irk me was that Sony charged me the full price of the PlayStation 5. They took $500 out of my account, which I was fine with. But then they refunded it and said, we'll charge you when we ship it. And I'm like, okay.
See, that scares me,
And that
though.
makes me nervous because
Yes.
it's like,
Yeah.
technically it's not paid for now, even though you said that it's mine
Right.
and you'll charge me when
And
it
and
ships.
to me,
Right.
it just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense because
Well-
we all talked about how it's like if you go to the gas station, they'll take $1 out, and then the full amount comes out like a day or two.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like with
Who
this,
takes out a full $500?
$500 because like there's
I mean,
no guarantee that
yeah.
$500 is going to be in your
in
account.
their defense, most places don't charge you until your item ships.
Yeah, that's
Amazon never charges you
True.
until your
But
item ships.
yeah, but they don't charge you the $500 refund.
That's a little bit weird.
Yeah,
like, I
that's
mean,
weird.
we actually saw on our credit card statement where it said Walmart charged this amount, but it still says pending. Like it's on our credit card.
Yeah.
But it says like this is
See,
money you don't
that's-
have.
that's scary.
because it's pending.
Yeah.
But if they release it, then it goes right back. It's
Well,
not
and that
technically
actually-
a refund. It's
that
just
was one of the articles
they
I
put a hold
read.
on the money.
That was one of the articles I read about the Xbox Series X pre-orders getting canceled. Was that it's actually also bad because a lot of people who are using their credit card to buy these pre-orders,
Yeah.
because the pre-order is getting canceled, it now dings their credit and gives them bad credit
See, I
because
didn't
they're
use a credit
saying.
card. I used my bank account.
But even still, it's wrong of them.
Oh, yeah, to do
that. And then now these people, because it makes the creditors are sitting here thinking, oh, this person is getting charged and then not charged and then not charged,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's sending the creditors up the wall saying, well, you're obviously looking for money somewhere, like you're in a frenzy, and so the creditors themselves are now it looks bad on whoever owns the credit card,
Yeah.
and now all of a sudden you're screwed because your credit is going bad and you may not have a pre-order. And if that's the case, well then, I mean, what the hell? It's like, all I know is that I was happy to hear that you all got yours, but I'd like to hear your all story as to how you got them, because there were two very different stories, and I think they're very reminiscent of a lot of people's stories.
Well, we all tried that night when we found out they were selling. In fact, I saw Sean mentioned, texted both of us and mentioned the Walmart, and then I got online and saw people talking about how they bought them at GameStop, and I said, crap, GameStop's selling them now too? So I actually called the closest GameStop, and they closed in like 5 minutes, so I knew I couldn't get there in time, but I called and said, are you all taking PS5 pre-orders in store? And they said, we were, but they're already all sold out. I was like, well, I couldn't get there in time anyways, even if you weren't, but in the physical building, people had already gone in and pre-ordered and sold out.
Go on.
So then I got on GameStop's website, and they didn't have nothing
Well,
would
and
work.
that was kind of
Yeah.
the domino
Yeah.
effect. The domino effect was first Walmart, and then it was like maybe 15, 20 minutes. Every 15, 20 minutes for the next few hours, we kept hearing about another retailer.
Yep.
It
Target,
was like then
Best Buy,
Target, then
Walmart,
Best Buy,
Amazon.
Then they were all the dominoes started to fall. Like, oh crap, this is and it was just trying. It was literally a dog chasing its tail.
Yeah.
It's like trying to find the retailer that would have some that you could buy.
Oh, we all managed to get one in our basket at Best Buy and never could check
I got
out.
one in Walmart.
Yeah.
I got one on Walmart.
I got one in Target and couldn't get
I
checked
was
out.
at the point where I was hitting checkout, and it was I didn't have my account logged in, and so as I was putting in my information and I was putting in my card info, it kicked me out. And I did the same thing that Sean did, because your story's a little
Which is
interesting.
Sean
Yeah.
got his first.
Yeah.
How did you manage that, sir?
Well, I basically after that, after the first day, we all tried multiple different. So what I ended up doing was I ended up following all these people on Twitter that were posting all this stuff, because I kept hearing, I kept seeing stuff pop up in my RSS feed about different places that were selling them, and the people that were posting them were all posting their crap on Twitter. So I don't use Twitter a lot, but I got on there and started following all these people, and that seemed to be having this inside information as to where and when and all this stuff. So someone actually posted like I think the post went out at like 8 something that evening.
Yeah.
And the following day, after the second day of pre-orders. And I didn't see it until about 5 minutes until 9. But the tweet said, like, Walmart is supposedly going to open pre-orders back up at 9 p.m. Eastern. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, yeah, right. Like, I'm not going to get one. So I went ahead, and people were saying, you need to be logged in. If you have an account, you need to create one. You need to have your payment method already in there and ready to go. It has to be stored on there in your chance. So I already have a Walmart account. My payment method is already in there.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and like opened a couple of windows up, had the PS5 page in 3 different windows, and was just waiting to see. And sure enough, at like 9 o'clock, the little blue pre-order button popped up, and I'm like, shit, it works. So
Yes.
I texted you all, try. And it let me get one in my cart. But then, of course, as soon as I hit checkout, same thing that everybody else was saying, as soon as you hit checkout, it looks like it's going to go through, and then it pops up, oh, sorry, this is unavailable. It's out of stock now.
Yep.
So I hit OK, and it takes you back to your cart. Well, the PS5 is still sitting in my cart.
Yeah.
So I hit checkout again, and OK, checkout again, OK. I did it 20 times.
And then it finally went
after
through.
like the 20th time, I'm not kidding, it just went white and popped up and said, thank you for your order. Here's your order number. And I was like,
Damn.
yes.
Yeah.
So I was
got
like,
one.
I was yelling in the house and everything. So then
Like Turbo Man,
so I
got
waited.
one.
Yeah, I waited like 2 or 3 minutes, and I got an email from Walmart with an order confirmation, because I'm sitting there thinking maybe this is screwed up.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I had Amelia check our Chase card, and I said, see if they took the money out or anything like that, and she said it's pending. So that's when I knew that it was for real.
Yeah.
But that again,
It's
I'm
still-
under the
it's
impression
still-
now
yeah.
it could freaking be canceled.
Right.
And people from Target were ordering that night, and theirs were being canceled
Yeah.
the following day. So I waited. It's been a week or 2,
Yeah.
almost 2 weeks now, and I haven't gotten anything as far as cancellation goes.
Yeah.
It's all still there. So I'm hoping that I actually get one. But what pissed me off was we all signed up for the
Same
Sony
email.
In fact, Brandon shared it with us.
Yeah.
Well, no, I got the he shared it with you.
Oh, he shared
I
it
got
with
my
me.
own.
You
email,
got your own
and
email.
I signed because I was thinking about
Okay.
that. I wonder if yours ever would have worked because you had used his link, because I used my own link
Yeah.
to do it, and I can kind of explain that since that's how I got
Yeah,
mine.
go ahead.
They had originally sent out an email saying, be the first to know when pre-orders go live. And me and Brandon both got the email and signed up. And
Yeah.
Brandon mentions it in a group text.
Yeah.
So
I got the email. It was in my junk mail.
Oh, okay.
But I actually used Brandon's
Yeah.
link
and
to
you had
sign
asked
up and
Brandon
register.
if he would forward that
Yeah.
because you didn't know you had it. But anyways, I'm sitting there like the night of pre-orders, and we can't get anywhere. And I finally see a tweet that said Sony is just now sending out emails for pre-order. And then it also had stated, but they're only like
It's select.
it's selective.
Yeah, it wasn't just
And
for
that-
everybody.
that's not originally what Sony had said.
No.
They did apparently they did like a month later send out another email saying it's selective, but we never got that. The
I
original
did get
email,
that. I had originally seen that they were not. It was not guaranteed that you were going to get a link to a pre-order, but it was to me. I understood it as the earlier you sign up for that original
better your
email,
chances
the
are.
better your chance is, because it's like, okay, we know you're really waiting for this. And that's what I was hoping and counting on.
Well, that night, like after I saw that tweet that said Sony was sending the emails out, I checked my email and I had an email from Sony that said, "Congratulations, you have been selected for a chance,
Yeah.
to be the one of the first to pre-order through
Yep.
our website."
Yep.
And I looked at it and it said, on the day, like our pre-orders are going to go live. It was Friday at like 1 p.m. our time, and it said, click the link. You'll be put into a queue. You'll have to wait in the queue, which is basically like a digital line.
Yep.
And then when you get to the end of the queue, if there's any left, you can pre-order one.
Yeah.
But it's first come, first serve. And the problem is at 1 o'clock,
You're at work.
I'm at work.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, crap. If
Most
I-
people
can't
are.
do this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Thanks, Sony.
it was like 8 in the morning Pacific time, but like 1 in the afternoon Eastern.
Yeah.
So I'm
Which
just,
is still funny because 8 in the morning Pacific time is still like
no,
work
it would have
time.
been 9 because it was a 4-hour difference.
So see, there you
so
go.
yeah. So at 9 o'clock in the morning, when people are usually
Still
going
to work, yeah.
So I too thought it was a bizarre time, but it was my last day of training. And during training, we got an hour lunch, and my lunch happened to be 12:30 to 1:30. So I was like, "Oh, good,
Maybe I got a window."
I have a half hour to try this thing." So I felt like I kind of lucked out there. And when I first clicked on the queue link at 1 o'clock, well, actually, I think I checked it out a little bit before 1 o'clock just to see how it worked, and it already threw me in the queue line. So I was like, "You telling me like I could have done this?" Like
At any time.
I probably at any time during
Yeah.
the day to get in the queue line, even though they said it doesn't
well,
go
because
live
I
till
guarantee
1.
you, even though they were throwing out that whole like,
Well, I tried it that night, and it takes you to Sony's PlayStation page, but there was no queue line that night, which I was like, that makes sense. I was like, I
It's
guess
not ready
It's
yet.
like they're not going to start the queue line until 1 o'clock, like they said. So then at like
I
12,
think it was
like 12:55 when I clicked it, and there was already a queue line. I was like, well, what the crap? What happened to 1 o'clock?
I think there was a CYA. They
Yeah.
covered their ass. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I think what it was they wanted to send out that email and then basically tell people, there's a chance you may not get one, even knowing that they sent out enough emails for people to get it.
Yeah.
And because that was the other thing that I thought was absurd, where most people were not capping how many consoles you could buy. And as far as I'm concerned,
Best Buy and Target did. Amazon
and
did.
actually I think GameStop did too. I do
Amazon,
think-
yeah. You could
Amazon
only,
did
you
not.
could only put one in your basket at Best Buy, I knew for sure. Amazon, yeah, you could like there were people that bought like 6 to 10 of
Which
those
is
things to
BS.
sell them for $1,000 on eBay. But I was sitting in the queue line at work, basically digitally, and I only have a half hour left for lunch, and it says your wait time is 40 minutes, and I'm like, son of a
Yeah.
And I was like, but I'm like, I'm gonna try.
Not gonna get
I was like,
one.
I'm gonna try. Maybe it'll go faster, and luckily it did. Like every so often it would update, and it dropped from like. Within like a few minutes, it dropped from like 40 to 35 and then down to... So finally, I actually got through with 3 minutes left on my lunch break. So within those 3 minutes, I had to make sure that like... Granted, it was on Sony's website, and because I have a PlayStation account, all my information is linked to the PlayStation account. So all I had to do as soon as I got in was sign into my PlayStation account. My payment info is already saved in my
Yes,
PlayStation
right.
account. So I just to throw it in my basket and hit pay. The money came out. So I was excited, and then later that day I checked my email,
And
and
it came back- went
and,
back
well, no,
in?
the email had stated like, we won't charge you for this until we ship it, and I was like, well, that's weird. You already charged me for it. So then I checked my bank account and saw that the money was back in my account, and I was like, why
yeah.
did you do that? So it's saying it's still mine. I have a confirmation number in an email. I saved it. And it's saying that when it ships, they'll charge me.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think, like you said, I think to be fair, I think because it is Sony, I really do think you
Yeah,
have the best
I
shot of
mean,
all of us.
Probably, yeah.
Now, here's
If
the thing:
Sony
I think
sells
Sean
more
has
than
the
they
best
have, it
shot.
can't-
Walmart still has my order. I just
Yeah.
checked it.
Well, and
So
I think
it's-
Sean has the best shot of getting it on the day of.
oh, no.
I think,
Mine's guaranteed day of.
are you serious?
Sony
It
said
that?
it's guaranteed to arrive on the day.
Are you going to be home that day?
Um,
Or is somebody going to try to swipe it like they do iPhones from back in the day? It's like,
I mean, they always put well, I'm not going to tell you where they don't put it on my
Don't say it on here.
Yeah. I'm not going to say where they put packages,
In
but
Louisville,
I'll
Kentucky,
but more
at
than
this address.
more than likely, I'll have something worked out for that
I'd
day
have somebody there.
specifically.
On the PS4, when I pre-ordered it, and it was delivered from Best Buy.
Yeah.
They delivered it like FedEx, and it had to be signed for.
Yeah.
So when it got delivered to the house,
That's right.
and I wasn't there, they took it back to Elizabethtown. And when I found out that
It was
that I
there.
had missed it, I drove to E-Town before they closed, and I picked it up.
Picked it up, yeah. And I've thought about, that's the problem is I want to pre-order, but I would almost rather it be shipped because my work schedule, the way it is, I'm like, I know I'll be working, into the late evening, and I would almost prefer, it'd be picked up. I mean, Brian could probably come over and say, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't see any package.
We're talking about
and he'd probably take it. But
we're talking about guaranteed launch day delivery. Amazon usually does that too, and they already had to send out emails saying,
That
we're
it's not.
sorry.
Yes.
There's been so many orders that we can't fulfill this. and have
although
it back
I will
by
say
launch.
Amazon's good about doing that
Yes.
and then delivering still.
Yes.
So I will give Amazon a little bit of leeway there. But of all the three of us, I'm still the one that's left without. And I'm hoping that I do come across a pre-order that
Don't
at
worry.
least within the next month or
Me
so.
and Sean will send plenty of pictures and videos of us enjoying.
Oh, I'm going to be
our
there.
day.
you don't. I know where you live. I will show
I'm not
up,
gonna
and
be
I'll be
there.
waiting.
I'm gonna be hiding somewhere with
No,
it.
you won't. I'll be waiting on your stoop, waiting for you to come home, and we'll unbox it together. That's right.
Wow. This article says GameStop is telling some pre-order customers they'll have to wait until 2021 to get theirs.
No way. Oh man.
Okay, if
that would piss me
I
off.
pre-order, they're telling me it won't be shipped until 2021. I'd be like, then what the
No,
hell?
that tells me.
like,
that,
why the
yeah.
hell did I pre-order?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That tells me they didn't have enough in stock.
Yeah.
And they just over promised.
Yeah.
I mean, that tells me right there. Like, oh yeah, as soon as we get more from Sony,
GameStop
we'll go
was
ahead and ship it to you.
GameStop was originally who I wanted to pre-order with.
I did
but
too.
I'm honestly thankful I didn't because they seem to be having some of the most trouble out of everyone else.
Which what else is new?
Which I
with
mean,
the-
they're
the
going out
trouble.
of business.
But
so I mean,
I wanted GameStop because that's who I got the PS4 through,
Me
and
too.
what
Well,
I loved was that they had a midnight release,
could go,
and I could
yes.
go get it, and I didn't have to wait till the actual, delivery
Yeah.
day. But all that being said, obviously, if you keep a watch out, like Sean did on Twitter, go look on there. If you're looking for a pre-order, keep following. Hopefully, every other day they're kind of coming out
they
with
keep
some hustle and
promising
bustle.
that they're going to have more.
They're going to have more, yeah. And I think they will. I think they're just slowly trickling them out. And I honestly would not be surprised. There's rumor that they're going to be sending out another batch of emails, that Sony's going to deliberately send out another batch. And if they do that, then hopefully I'll get one.
We've mostly talked about Sony and PlayStation because that's all what we're all trying to pre-order. But I mean, the same thing goes for X. Microsoft said they're going to ship out, have more
And
shipments.
they've also, I was going to say, they've, especially after the Bethesda buy, they've sold out of
Oh
theirs.
yeah, that's huge, and that is something that I've kept in mind with Xbox. The thing I find funniest, and this is totally Microsoft's fault because of their idiotic naming scenario. The Xbox One X sales skyrocketed 700% on launch day because people
thought it was the Series
they
X.
didn't know, they didn't realize the difference between the One X and the Series X.
Particularly on Amazon.
So they were buying One X's on Amazon instead of Series X's, and I'm sure those people are now pissed now that they.
I would just love. I would love
Yeah.
to see somebody try to sell One X for like $1,000, and people be like, "I'm not doing that. Are you an idiot?"
And again, but I mean, and that's Microsoft's fault because
Yeah.
their naming is
Their
just
naming
terrible.
convention was
stupid.
awful.
terrible.
Yeah.
Series X, it makes no sense.
You had the Xbox One S, the Xbox One X, then you had the Series X, the Series S.
It makes
I'm
no
like,
sense. It really is.
It does.
It's dumb. It's dumb. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. As always, we've already mentioned it early in the show, but yes, email us at rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com. The link's right there at the bottom of your screen. We'd love to get some love from you on our website.
We want to hear from people that aren't Brian or Neil.
Yeah.
I mean, we love them and we love hearing from them, but we want to hear from more.
We
as
want to hear
well.
more
yeah.
people. I wanna
Everybody's
hear more
watching the
people.
debate right now. That's
Yeah,
why
that's
they're
true.
not
And
talking.
we're going to watch it right after this. We just wanted to give some people some more entertainment.
Yeah,
other than
I've
the
only
debate.
seen 4 people, or maybe just 3, because I haven't even seen Neil watch. This
Everybody
show.
does want to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's what we're gonna do immediately after this. So we're gonna be checking it out. So.
Did you get the drinking game text I sent
I
you?
did.
Because
did.
I was reading through that and I was like, you would be wasted by the end of this debate. Completely, because there's not a chance that either one of them are not doing any of the things in that
in
scenario.
that text.
It's like I guarantee you, 95% of the things on that drinking game they're going to do.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. It's pretty predictable.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Most people have said like 70% of the people that are watching already know who they're voting for. It's just kind of for the
It's
entertainment.
entertainment.
I mean,
It's celebrity
factor.
deathmatch.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Most, I would say with any presidential debate, most people already know who they're voting for. Though I do think there are those that kind of are swayed one way or the other. I think this year that's the percentage of people that are going to be swayed is far less than any other year. 'Cause
Yeah.
you already know.
I would
agree. Alrighty, guys, that's it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. As always, you can check us out live every single Tuesday night at 9 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. Check out. I hate you. Check out our website too for past episodes as well, redmoonproductions.com. Until next time, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and
Keith Cheatham.
so until next time, we will see you at the next presidential debate.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.